Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. I am presenting my article Hemp and Industry in Italy between past and present. I am Davide Cacchioni and I am a PhD student at the EHESS, l'École des Hautes Études en Sciences Sociales, a French institution. My interest in the social life of hemp in contemporary Italy starts from the remark that in Italy today there is a relatively wide interest in the recovery of hemp production. Um, this comes after an interruption in hemp production of several decades. Until the post-war period, Italy was one of the most important hemp industries in the world, and hemp was used in several senses, in several contexts, in order to make ropes, lines, nets, sacks, rigging, but also clothes, shirts, and sheets. After the post-war period, there was a sharp decline in hemp production, and hemp disappeared from the Italian countryside. And still today, textile hemp production is very marginal in Italy. But we can find a relatively new interest in the recovery of this plant from the end of the 20th century, 1990s, and years 2000. So the question I ask is, how does this relationship between a glorious past and the present, made up of difficult efforts, operate? How does the relationships between past and present operate? And I take the case study of an association for the recovery of hemp in the Susa Valley, that is a valley, an Alpine valley in the Western Alps in northern Italy, just near Turin, the city of Turin. My hypothesis were that fiber's economic past could weigh materially and culturally on the present, and the objective was to show how, and secondly, that textile fiber past could be reappropriated by contemporary actors in the present, and my objective was to show uh, what new meanings and with what new purposes hemp, the same plant, is recovered today. Um, the methodology I have used is first a literal review of the literature, economic history literature. So I have tried to retrace the literature in economic history of the fiber in light of its ambiguities. Hemp is, um, is in fact a poor fiber for peasant clothing, but is also and mainly a strategic fiber for navy. It is a local fiber, but is also and mainly fiber following wide international circulation, from Piedmont to Genova, from Bologna to Venice, but also from the Black Sea to Venice, from Russia to England. So it implies hemp production very wide international circulation for several centuries. Hemp is a fiber transformed in the domestic system, where the rural family is very important, and it is also a fiber coming to industrialize very late and very little if compared to other fibers. Um, and it is a fiber declining in the phase of the growth of man-made fibers, In the face of vast changes in the navy industry and in the countryside, the end of an abundant agricultural labor, the exodus to industrial areas that Italy experiments in the post-war periods. So, secondly, my aim was to question the relationship between past and present by studying ethnographically a contemporary case study of hemp recovery with the tools of participant observation and ethnographic interviewing. And this case study was in the Susa Valley. As a result of this inquiry, hemp in the Susa Valley is clearly charged with new goals. Hemp is used in the Susa Valley in order to reappropriate the local industrial past of an important industrial valley. The Susa Valley is in the area of Turin, one of the poles of the so-called industrial triangle of Italian industrial development. Hemp in the Susa Valley is recovered in order to build local ecological and ethical supply chains. But these guidelines come up against significant local challenges. It is difficult to recover hemp. It is difficult to build local ecological supply chains. And secondly, as a result of this insight into the social life of hemp in the Susa Valley, we have a study of the relationship between present and pasts who take on greater complexity and richness. It is my hope, at least. We see several pasts interacting with present, both on a material level, for example, in terms of technological inheritance, in terms of the history of modes of production, and on a symbolic level. In fact, between the 19th and 20th century, hemp is a fiber that struggle to industrialize, relying on large amounts of human labor. During the post-war period, hemp was expelled from industrial production, was expelled from countryside with the arrival of man-made fibers, mainly, but also interacting with wider changes in socio-economic configuration. Hemp was replaced by other crops in the countryside, while the peasant work was gradually transformed into an industrial one. Some 50 years or more later, the recovery of hemp in the Susa Valley in the years 2010 and 2020 is nourished by new critical sensibilities toward industry. We find industry at the other hand, in a sense. The plant takes on new ecological meanings, is questioned locally to give life to a post-industrial production, a landscape. So next steps in order to study the social life of hemp in contemporary Italy for me is to delve into other contexts of hemp recovery in order to restitute more complexity in contemporary social life of hemp, giving back to the anthropological analysis of the social life of hemp its non-textile aspects. Cannabinoids drag questions that are very important in order to understand the life of cannabis sativa in contemporary Italy and in contemporary world. And deepening the historiographic analysis of a textile production like hemp production that is often less studied than others like cotton or silk. So I hope that my intervention could explain some things or make you want to read my article, or in any case study the social life of hemp in Italy or elsewhere. That is very interesting, I think. And I thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to your question. Thank you.